Hi, my name is Sage with TransAscend, and today I want to share with you something very special and sacred to me, and that is my story of how I came out as a woman. So, my trans story starts very young, just as with many trans people, but this journey is one that perhaps doesn't fit into the typical societal narrative of what it is to be a trans person, because I actually didn't figure out that I was trans until I was 23, and although this is far more common than people would think, when I notice narratives in society, about trans people, usually the tendency is to say that trans people figure out who they are when they're children or in puberty, especially in puberty. That wasn't my experience, and I'm here to let you know that if you're one of my fellow trans siblings who realized late in life, whatever that means, right, that you're trans, I want to let you know that your life is no less due to it. Your life is no less due to it, because you are an eternal soul, and your truth about yourself never changes, and everything that you have to enjoy about yourself never leaves you, because it's something inside of you, regardless of what the exterior might be. Fuck the exterior, right? It's about the interior. That's where all the juice is. That's where all the loveliness is. And once I've learned how to tap into that, once I learned how to do that, then all of this wonderful, all this glorious wisdom and this love and the self-acceptance became mine to enjoy, as it always has been. So, anyway, to the particular details of my story, I had the occasional clue as a kid, like wearing my mom's clothes when I went into the closet when I was a 3-year-old girl, and just so cute, and God, just so cute, right, as a little kid. And yeah, I had, there's a time when I was in the playground with a bunch of my friends, and many who were in the same situation, and we were trying on girl names, I remember that and telling my parents about that, and getting a reaction that was very, that definitely deterred me from pursuing my true identity further. I remember that, and I also remember, what else? I don't know, just feeling extremely uncomfortable in all-boys environments, which happened only in middle school gym. After that, I avoided all-boys environments at all costs. I filled my schedules up with academics in high school, and I had to do like one more semester of PE, so I took online bowling for my PE credit. Online bowling is not, this is a common misconception. Online bowling is not where you go online and then you do the clicky mouse and you throw the ball with the clicky mouse. No. It is, yeah, I had a clicky mouse as a kid, never mind. I don't have one anymore. But whatever, don't get distracted by the clicky mouse. Online bowling is where you learn about the history and rules of the noble sport of bowling, and you take quizzes about that shit, and then you go out to an actual bowling alley, which I did. Mark my words. You play however many games. I think it was like 10 games. You submit your scores. They track your progress. I improved like a lot. Anyway, that's online bowling, okay? So don't knock it. Don't diss online bowling. I'll get you. I'm just kidding. My point is, I was avoiding these all-boys spaces because I hated it. Ugh, I hated it. Excessive identification with masculinity made me really, like, sick. And, but it never really dawned on me to explore my feelings more deeply, because I was very afraid to, and I didn't feel like I had anyone who cared to listen. And I didn't care to listen to myself, and I was afraid of myself. And so, as a result, I just went about my life. I was a straight A student. I was a high achiever. I was one of the valedictorians of my class in high school. It was a tie. I think it was like a 3-way tie. Anyway, yeah, I guess people were competitive. I don't know. I just did my thing. But, no, but, yeah, there was, like, so much going on in my life with academics, extracurriculars, you know, getting into colleges, blah, 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 blah. I was numbing myself to my emotional truth by being a workhorse and by saying my life isn't who, I don't love myself for who I am. I love myself for what I do. I love myself for my achievements. Wrong! As Donald Trump would say, wrong! Wrong! I love my lips there. It's good with lipstick. He should try putting metallic lipstick on. I think it would really enhance his delivery a lot. Anyway, it's probably going to get me hella subscribers. People are like, oh, look at our lipstick. Anyway, yeah, what was I saying? And then my glasses match my tapestry. No, we're getting into the muck here of, like, the external. Right? This is an internal journey. Okay, and so here's how I started my journey, my internal journey. I was in graduate school, and I was doing my same thing, you know, working my tail off like I've never had before. I literally had, my life was like, tiny. Like, it could fit on the tip of a ballpoint pen, you know, and then, like, the rest of my work, you know, my school was like an ocean compared to that. And, gosh, I just felt so nastily terrible that year. I was putting others before myself constantly. I was crying over, like, other kids. I was crying over the kids' situations. Notice I said other kids, because my own inner child needed deep healing and love, and I needed to come out as a woman and love myself there. My own childhood needed loving and healing, and I was trying to help these kids. You know, that's a recipe for, you know, personal disaster. But in this case, you know, and really in all cases, it wasn't a disaster so much as it was an awakening. I got to a point where I was so stressed out that I just had, like, a breakdown. I just wanted to escape. And I had friends visiting, and they were pot smokers, and so I smoked with them. And I could not come down from my high, and I could not write my lesson plans for the next day. And my perfect record of success, at least at some minimum level, was about to be broken. And that's when I started freaking out and asking myself, asking my heart, you know what I mean, inquiring within, what is it what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And the answer that popped up was actually that the answer was this: you've been suppressing your true gender identity. And I was like, really? I was honestly very shocked by this, but I instantly, it's like I was, like, hit by a golf ball all of a sudden, you know, in the head. I mean, that's a bad metaphor because it hurts a lot. But it's like, I'm like, where am I? And then a golf ball hits me in the head, and I'm like, oh, I'm on a golf course, right? That was the feeling that it was. Don't know why I used a golfing metaphor. I do golf, but it's been years. I am Scottish. But, anyway. Yeah, I was like, that's the answer. That's the answer. So I looked up some names for gender-neutral people, like for, genderqueer people. I don't know what I consider myself. I use both terms, I think. I looked up a name. I wrote up a letter to my cooperating teacher and to my supervisors, you know, in the teacher ed program. And I finally put myself first, and it felt so good. It felt so good that I could just, like, you know, take a leave of absence, really is what I mean. And I was just like, I can't go to classes, I can't do student teaching anymore. Because I've just discovered that my gender identity isn't what I thought, and I need to give attention to this. And they were very understanding. It's a very liberal school. I went to Stanford University, my dream school, which I worked so hard to get into. That school, you know, oh man, it whipped my ass and ended up teaching me to put myself first. And at that point, when I finally broke from the stress, I finally did. So anyway, I took that time to love myself. I really inquired that night, or perhaps the next night, very soon after, like what my real gender identity was, because I wasn't sold on that I was like both masculine and feminine, or that I was neither, you know. So, you know, I was about to take a shower, sitting on the toilet, and I was thinking, I was fiercely praying, essentially, asking, like, what is my real name? And I was saying different names, like my birth name, my dead name. I was saying the gender-neutral name I picked, and I was saying Sage. And I would repeat the names and see how they felt in my heart, which was very advanced and very, like, because that's exactly the kind of shit that I do now. Like, see what resonates in your heart and feels good in your heart. It's good. It was presaging my life purpose as being a spiritual teacher and a healer of people. So, suddenly, I was repeating the name Sage over and over again. And as I repeated that name, suddenly a voice answered back to me. And it was just the most beautiful, amazing voice. Like, it was like powerful like the thunder. It rang out, like, I just kind of imagine, like, oh my god, like, I imagine, like, the plains with those, like, rocky little fun mountains that, you know, in the American West, there's those little, like, pillar-like mountains, I don't know what they're called. I'm thinking, like, you know, Utah type. Like a big plain with these mountains, and there's this thundercloud, and this name, the sound of thunder that is my name rings out. And in a voice that was like, it was both masculine and feminine, you know. I could feel the womanhood and the manhood of that voice, both at once, equally. And it was just like this healing peace dawned upon me. And I was just filled with shock and awe and just enraptured by what I heard. So I made my way into the shower, and I took a shower as I was planning. And when I was in the shower, I had this, I experienced an ecstatic full body vision of who I was as a woman. I felt, first of all, emotionally, I felt kind of like I was on ecstasy. I did take that drug once, but not very much. And it was nothing like this. It was nothing like this. It was like, I don't know, just this deep, profound, higher than the clouds bliss. And I sort of had a vision of myself that I could see. I was closing my eyes and I could see myself as a woman with a woman's body. Very beautiful. I can see it now, and it's just so beautiful to remember. Oh my god. And yeah, and I also felt it physically too. Like, I felt like I had breasts, and I felt like I had a vagina, and that I had like hips, you know, and that I had the kind of body I wanted. Like, it was like a bodily vision, you know? You could call it, right? Yeah. No drugs. No drugs were involved. It was all God. It was just God. And, it was just, I gotta say, like, one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. So, yeah, after that, I just spent all of my time, um, like doing yoga, processing my emotions, and I did that through yoga, through taking walks, hiking, talking to people, doing art a little bit. But I was very much like looking for confirmation of who I was and looking for love for who I was outside of myself. And as a result, my mood fluctuated really wildly. I was seeing, you know, counselors, and I was brushing everything off and telling them, oh, like, I just had a brief psychosis from all the stress. It was nothing. It was nothing. And I was desperate to, you know, assert to everybody that, oh, I can go back to student teaching. I can do my job again as a teacher, blah, 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 blah. But there was conflict between that part of myself and the part who was like, no, actually, your life purpose is something different than being a school teacher, which is something else I was waking up to. I was interested in spiritual things and in the arts and in creative self-expression, but I had no idea how to do those things. And I had a lot of financial anxiety since I had massive debt from going to grad school at Stanford. And so, because I didn't have that kind of trust in my inner potential and myself, ultimately, you know, I ended up folding to the voices telling me to go back in the closet. I actually did have also a friend who I saw as kind of like a mother figure, who basically told me I was being selfish by coming out, and that I was running from myself by trying to like invent a new identity. And I believed that at the time because I respected her more than I respected myself. So that was the straw that broke the camel's back, and I finally decided at that point to go back in the closet and to live as a man again. And, you know, through the whole turn of events, I ended up finishing grad school, not doing student teaching, but finishing the coursework. I had a month left. And, yeah, basically, you know, half being on vacation in a way, but it didn't feel like a vacation per se. I was very deeply miserable. And I was so self-hating, and I had so little self-confidence that I could not even look people in the eyes. That's how bad I was at. What a bad place I was in. I couldn't even look people in the eyes unless they were my friends or my family. And I was kind of reclusive as a result of that. I didn't want to leave the house I lived in, you know? So, but I ended up, you know, going through the motions, you know? I had my graduation cap, I had these beautiful lyrics from the song that Talisman, a Stanford choir, sang. It's beautiful, 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 beautiful lyrics. And I just wrote this, like I was just like divinely inspired to write this on my graduation cap. And it said, I am sitting here waiting for memories to teach me to see the beauty of the world through my own eyes. Such a beautiful, in fact, yeah, I want to sing that actually. It's, I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty of the world through my own eyes. Yeah, so it was a beautiful song. I just cried so much when I heard that song. And little did I know that what I was wanting to do was I was wanting to go into those memories of childhood and heal myself, because as scarce as they were, all those memories of when I would dabble in femininity were the most joyful memories of my whole childhood. And they would point me to my true identity. This is what I've discovered since joining Twin Flames Universe, investing in all their courses and in all the spiritual help from other coaches, ascension coaches, right? Loving myself. At the time, though, I thought nothing of it. I just thought it was beautiful. And I did graduation. Ugh, felt dull, stale, emotionless. Didn't feel proud of myself. Deeply ashamed of myself. But I went back home. I basically struggled all summer back in Arizona, living with my dad and his girlfriend at the time, about whether or not I should actually go into teaching. And ultimately, as a result of talking with my parents and my family, I decided to honor guilt, and I decided to honor pressure of myself and financial fear. So I decided to go into teaching after all. And I ended up applying to schools kind of at the very last minute. I ended up getting into a school that was pretty much like almost diametrically opposed to my entire philosophy of education that I had established. And yeah, it was just a school that was deeply troubled. And yeah, I definitely don't say that lightly. Definitely a very dark place. And I was in equally as much of a dark place myself. That was, as always, the external is a mirror of your internal reality. And my internal reality was extremely a dark place. And so therefore, I ended up working at this middle school that was just, it was hell, really. It was just hell on earth for me and for probably many people involved in that school. So, anyway, I was underprepared since I was a late hire. I went in, not even having lesson plans complete on the first day because I was so stressed out and so overwhelmed. And I ended up just, tanking it. I just received so much abuse from the children that I just emotionally was a total nightmare and wreck. I held it together for the first few days, but after that, I was just openly hostile, openly angry, just openly, expressing my hatred, with or without words, for, the people who I was with and the situation I was in. And it was just such a deep, dark pit of despair for me. This is the dark night of the soul, It's a time when, you're all of the values that I used to hold and all the truths I used to think I had about myself and all of the self-image that I had built up are completely just thrown on the rocks, like a ship, on a reef, you could say. Completely shipwrecked. Yeah, and I continued through my year, one desultory day after another. I would always say that, get up and be like, another desultory day. And just so miserable. So miserable. I wanted a way out so badly, but I didn't have, at the time, the self-respect and the sense of inner power to sacral chakra, by the way, guilt, or inner power, sacral chakra. I was guilty, and so I felt obligated to stay. But I wanted a way out so badly, I drove myself insane, actually, by one night I came home from work. I smoked some weed, a lot for me, and then I watched Democracy Now! Broadcast, and it was this interview of the Pentagon Papers guy. I don't remember his name, but he also used to be a nuclear war planner, and he knew how irresponsible the U.S. government had been treating nuclear weapons, throughout history, and also what a precarious position the country appeared to be in at the time, in the fall of 2017. And I was just a complete wreck looking at that. Like, I just forced myself to keep sitting there and watching the dismal horror of the nuclear bombs, the dismal destruction that they would leave, and the description of the dismal nuclear winter that would kill everybody else anyway, except for a small portion of humanity, possibly, who scientists projected may live in New Zealand and survive off of mollusks. So, it's just like, I was like insane with fear. Like, I was on the toilet texting everybody who really cared for me, saying how much I loved them and stuff. Because I was seriously believing that the world was going to end, and a big part of me was suicidally driven. I kind of wanted the world to end so that I would be forced to face my demons, in the nuclear winter. Kind of like it's like a self-punishment fantasy, like a God punishes you for being so evil. Or just die so I can get out of the hell that was my life. That's the place I was in psychologically. And I continued being in that place for about a month. Every day I would have intense triggers of like mortal terror when I would hear air conditionings going on, or cars driving by, or planes flying overhead. I was like in a terrible place. I hit the straw that broke the camel's back, or I tripped over it, or whatever you do with the straw. When I was out on a family trip smoking weed with a family friend, who's basically family, yeah. And it was like 10 degrees Fahrenheit out in eastern Pennsylvania, Christmas time, smoking weed. And I was just, it felt like, the nuclear winter was here already because it was so damn cold. And I was so close to New York City, a bomb could very well, take me out too. And I was just like so terrified. And I received no comfort from my family friend. No offense to him. It was just what I needed to wake up. Because, as a result of this, I reached my breaking point. I went to the Facebook page of the friend of mine who had actually helped me come out, in a way, like kind of was the spiritual midwife of my my womanhood, my friend Christine. And she, lo and behold, on her Facebook page, the first post on there was a link to the website of this spiritual healer. And she was just like the answer to my prayers at the time. So I booked a free consultation with her, and I ended up like deciding, I was already decided on getting healing from her because I knew it was kind of meant to be, and I received a healing session from her. And I really, really, really broke through and busted through this childhood trauma that I had about my world ending, so to speak, because my parents were threatening each other with divorce all the time. So when I healed that childhood trauma, I could start to feel instantly, all of the terror of the nuclear threat, just like detaching from my mind and exiting it, because I had healed the childhood trauma that was being highlighted by the nuclear situation. So, this story is about to take an extremely juicy turn. We've reached a milestone here, right? Because I finally decided to love myself and to love my inner child, and to start investing in my healing. This is a big lesson for you. If you're watching this, by the way, you're also called to invest in your own healing and your own self-love, because it makes such a massive difference, It's like a nuclear bomb of love goes off in your life and nothing's the same. So, anyway, I did the healing of my inner child. And then, basically what I did, was, literally, like, this person asked me if I wanted to, like, merge with anything more inside of myself. Because, you merge with your inner child when you heal them. They're no longer, like, separate from you. You bring them into your loving embrace, and they have a place in your heart again. Well, I embraced this, like, energy that I saw. I just envisioned, like, this galaxy, the stars, this mass of stars. And I was like, I'm going to take this into myself. Like, it was like symbolic, right? It was my own inner symbolism of accepting basically like the divine and like pure true love into my life. So I did that. And after that, I was totally like filled with this blissful, peaceful, and exciting knowing that I was going to meet the love of my life. And so then a couple nights later, I went to a gig of my dad's and heard another band play, and I danced with them, knowing that by the law of attraction, since I had been doing some reading on spirituality, if I had a really good time, that I would attract even more good times into my life. And then, like, lo and behold, at the end of that concert, I got this free ticket to this New Year's party called the Flannel Ball in Phoenix. And it was like, I think like a block away or something from where I met Angel, my twin flame, my true love. So anyway, when I got this ticket, I was like, I had this deep knowing in myself and this kind of just like this awe about how God was working, and I was like, this is my ticket. So the next night, I sure as hell went to the flannel ball, and I waited, I held space for all the fear and all the guilt that was coming up in me and all the self-criticism and judgment that I was at this place, waiting to be delivered the love of my life. But then, lo and behold, again, I just like that phrase. Once everything was said and done, once I was about ready to go back to my car, I was walking back, and suddenly the crowd of people that was alongside me went by, and I saw Angel, and we locked eyes, and I just walked over to him, and from there, just everything changed in my life. I mean, it was like, how do you put this? It was really, it was like another one of those golf ball hits you in the head, oh, I'm on a golf course moments. It was like, honestly, my reaction, aside from the deep peace of meeting the true love of my life and knowing I never had to look again, was being like, really, like, ooh, oh shit, this is it, this is him, So, yeah, I met him, he told me he was lost, I asked him where he wanted to go, he said he didn't know, aka, the translation was he just wanted to be with me, and so I just said, let's just go, and so we did, and he asked to hold my hand, and we joined hands, and we walked through downtown Phoenix. Anyway, Angel had a lot of, like, issues at that time. He was going through so much, like, self-rejection, too, just like I was, and he was afraid that if he claimed how much he loved me, that he would be gay, because I was presenting as a man at the time. As a result, he was hitting on a lot of other women, which made me uncomfortable, but although I didn't know that I was, like, envious, at the time, I was, and I was also concerned for, how those interactions made those girls feel, but, Angel, he asked me, like, he told me, I like you so much, but why can't you be a woman? And I kind of froze up there, but that planted the seed in me. Even though I just responded by saying, like, I'm just not a woman, because I'm just not, it planted the seed in me where I wanted to get help from my future spiritual teachers about my gender identity. Anyway, We ended up parting because I was mad at him for flirting with other women again, and I walked off the train that he was on, that we were both on, never to see him since, so far. And yeah, that was it. And obviously I was filled with deep despair, but I ended up just feeling my way through the despair and like letting it go and sort of continuing on with my miserable life being a middle school teacher and being a dude, so to speak. Until finally, when spring break came around, I reached my breaking point, and I was like, oh my god, I can't take this anymore. Like, I need help. I need a spiritual teacher. So I looked up Twin Flames on YouTube. I found Fabian Schultz, who's with Twin Flames Universe, and he gave me some help on my Twin Flame journey by helping me like heal myself of my self-rejection and such, and the difficulties I was having with my job. And anyway, he added me to the Twin Flames Universe open forum, and that's where I found lots of friends and support, including my friend and teacher Angie Magi. She ended up messaging me one day after I had invested in like all the courses that ended up changing my life and really improving my game as a teacher a lot, more than any professional development ever had. So Angie, after the school year ended, reached out to me and she was like, hey, I want to do an interview with transgender members of our group. And I was really triggered by that because she used the word transgender on me. You know, at that point I knew that as a soul I was feminine, but I didn't claim myself fully as feminine, as a woman, you see? So I felt like deja vu because I felt the same kind of head-spinning fear, like I don't know what's what, like what's right or left and who I am. That came back again. This time, I had all the tools I needed to work through all of my upsets, all my fears about like what other people would think, and about like, you know, being able to make money, get acceptance, be loved and accepted by my true love, by Angel, etc. Until, you know, I was confident enough to come out in the group and then to come out on Facebook. I think, and not too long after, because the pace is so fast when you do this healing work. Yeah, I just came out very quickly. Granted, I did that before, but this time I did it with a feeling of confidence and peace versus with a feeling of like, oh shit, like I guess I better do this, but I feel like maybe I'll die, you know. Well, anyway, it does really pay to like face your fears, but it also pays to love yourself, take care of yourself, and move forward from a place of peace too. And that's really what I've learned as a result of being a student of Twin Flames Universe, Jeff and Shalia. It just like completely has changed how I approach my whole life to where I can experience a lot of love and peace and look at myself and see a woman and really, you know, feel whole and feel like a woman inside, meaning just accepting who I am and loving myself. So that's my story of how I came out. The most recent coming out, by the way, was June of 2018, so this video is late April, so it's been 10 months. I've been on 9 months on hormone therapy so far. And yeah, I mean, that's it. That's my journey. I know normally people do talk about like changing their name legally, being on hormones, etc. On their twin flame, on their transition journey. I said twin flame journey because do you see? Because my journey, my transition journey is so intricately bound up with my twin flame journey of meeting my true love, and your two journeys, twin flame and transition, are probably really bound close together too. Probably, like, if you're watching this and if you're trans, like, you're probably, like, your #1 block to being with your true love is the self-acceptance and feeling good enough for who you are as a person, you know, for your gender, woman or man or whatever. So that's my story. That's my message to you. It's been my pleasure to share it with you, and to share my beautiful Steve Jobs-esque looks with you. I feel like it's kind of like no turtleneck, but I don't know, dark dress. I feel like I'm like the female version of Steve Jobs in like these videos. You see, I really like this pretty dress and the things on it, and my buff arms as well. I will not give those up. Anyway, yeah, that's it. That's my story. I hope you liked it. If you didn't, fuck you! Oh, can't do that. Anyway, I love you unconditionally, whether, you know, whatever your response is. But to my transgender siblings, I love you so much. I so desire to support you, and I'm ready to do so. And, yeah, be yourself. Because God knows you need it, and so does the world.